right, we are 2 minutes past the hour, so we will get started. So excited to have you join the discussion on process mapping today. If you would like access to the slides, they are available in the link that I just dropped into the chat window. I am Courtney Kearney, founder and owner of C. Kearney Consulting. So excited to have you, but we have a ton of content to cover today. Obviously can't get to it all. Highly recommend that you sign up to receive our monthly emails. You can do that through the window I'm dropping into, or excuse me, the link that I'm dropping into the chat window. This is also, if you have been attending our webinars, I'm not usually live. We have shifted to doing recordings of the webinars, and then Erica comes on and shares, and she's able to do the chat dropping in of the recordings and all of that. She had an appointment today, so it is me doing it live again and dropping in the links as I'm talking. So pardon the multitasking that is going to be happening on today's webinar. Those actionable items, the content that we put out in our emails, we always want it to bring you value. So these are just some of the examples. The journey of process clarity, we're going to be diving into that today. The previous one was 6 strategies to get the information that you need when you need it. If you missed either of those, you can jump over to our website, and those links are now in the chat window as well. We have monthly resources like the webinar that you are attending today. We did drop back in our cadence, so you have 4 remaining opportunities for webinars, and then 5 remaining opportunities for the CRM chat, because we're doing those on even and odd months. Hopefully I got my math right in that. We're doing 6 of each for 2023. So without further ado, oh no, couple more. If you are ready to achieve your goals, we are ready to work with you. You can book a discovery call, and that link is also in the chat window, as well as if you are not ready to work with a consultant, we completely understand. There is a book available to you if you would like to purchase the CRM or Die book. That link is also available in the chat window. Okay, I think I'm done with my logistics for the presentation, and now we can get into the meat of process mapping today. The very first step is to convert your chaos to clarity documenting. This is not something that is new. If you have been following us for the last year, it was a big part of the CRM or Die content. But really, we're going to be looking at a real life example. What does that mapping look like? I know in previous webinars going over the process mapping discussion, I used our own client experience mapping that we had gone through. Now we're going to go through a contact management process mapping, and what does that look like? But really the first step is getting it down on paper. We all would love a roadmap for our job, and that's exactly what you're creating when you are doing your process mapping. You can discover the power of putting it down on paper. Oh, I was like, somebody has put it into, I have not tried that yet. Thank you, Priscilla. I will have to look at that. I'm actually going to take a screenshot of it really quick. So I appreciate that feedback. No, I have not looked at the automations of putting the meetings and taking notes with AI. We're doing a presentation at the first part of May with AI, so I'm going to add that to my research. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. For those who have no idea what I'm talking about, Priscilla gave some good feedback in the chat window. So I just wanted to acknowledge that really quick. A process map, really the goal of that is to show how you set a route to improving efficiency, to have clean and reliable data, regardless of what process you are mapping, wanting to be able to know where you start, look at where you're trying to get, and make sure everybody agrees on that path, because sometimes your end goal might not be everyone else's. So you want to make sure that everybody is on the same journey. But really, With the map that we're looking at today, talking about managing your client, your contact data specifically, when you go to implement this, you want to make sure that everybody is clear on the information that you're gathering, where to enter that information, and making sure that everybody understands why. So some of the whys are listed on your screen: improving your process, making sure that it's as efficient as it can be, increasing your effectiveness with the time and resources that you have, and then also creating universal buy-in so that everybody can see in black and white, this is what we're all buying into. This is all what we're agreeing to. Recap from last year's process mapping webinar. If you have not attended that, if you click on that chaos to clarity, we have links back to those webinars where I went through the 5 steps in order to create the process. First, you got to get the first iteration down on paper, mapping that, identifying the gaps, whether that's gaps between information, gaps between departments, between people, reviewing the process. Don't just set it and forget it, but review it, making sure that you say, okay, this is how I see it. Now let's bring in other people, improving that through either automations or AI, looking at other improvements through just making sure that you have workflow triggers or any of those kind of things built into your process, and then monitoring it. You want to make sure that things are still working. Are the automations triggering? Have we changed certain things in other programs that are maybe feeding to our CRM, or our CRM is feeding to those? Are those automations and integrations still working? You want to make sure that you monitor and make changes accordingly. Maybe some of the information that you originally didn't think was important, you now have the time and resources and capacity to track, and you need to add that to your process. Are you ready to include whatever process that you're talking about in your onboarding? Then you got to bring in HR and make sure that that all is part of it. Again, I could go on for 30 whole minutes, and I did last year for this process, but I will move on so we can dig into our actual example that we have for today. One of the key things to creating your process mapping is to be curious. And the way that we like to address this is to let out your inner toddler, to make that why, but why? Why is the sky blue, mommy? Was a question that I go all the time when my kids are little. And I love that my response was, I don't know, science. Science is why the sky is blue. I don't really know why the sky is blue. I am sure that like a robot, like if I say her name, she's going to light up in my office, but she could tell my kids why the sky is blue. But I loved their curiosity, and that's what we need to bring to this process. So asking why on repeat. Why do we need to collect that information? Why do we need to collect it then? Why are we running that report on that cadence? Asking that why question is important because it really gets you to the root of the issue. We go through an example of this in the book and on our website, really looking at if you take something at face value and do it upon request without asking why, you could be missing the root of what their actual intention is. So the example that we give is if you are a marketing coordinator and a senior leader comes to you and says, hey, who are our top tier clients? You could absolutely say, I will find that out for you and go along your merry way. And then you are making a lot of assumptions after that. How do you find your top tier clients? Is it by revenue? Is it by dollar amount of the value of the project? Is it by profitability? Is your top tier clients by how often they use you? How many years that they have used your firm? How exactly are you defining the tier one? Now, if that leader is still in front of you and you stop and go, I would love to find that information for you, but I have a couple questions. How are you defining your tier one clients? Is this something that you want me to answer right now and never again? Or is this a question that you want to be able to answer through our CRM at a click of a button? All of those is what happens when you get curious, not just saying, okay, and then making a whole bunch of assumptions afterwards, but really stopping to say, what exactly are you after? How often do you need it? Why do you need it? What are you looking to gain from it? What decisions are you making because of it? But really, you're getting to the root of what they're asking. ultimately, you are unlocking your competitive advantage when you get to the root, because then you're solving your business problems, you're bringing solutions to the table, and you're actually collecting the information that's needed at the end of the day. So the example that I bring to you today, don't get overwhelmed by the chart. We're going to break it down, but I want you to see it in its entirety first. So this is the example of the workflow that was created to visually express how this company maps their contact management. But first, they asked a whole lot of questions. So what is our current process? Is it working? What needs to change about it? What data is important for us to capture for each contact record? What should be entered and where should it be entered? Who should be entering it? If we designate a specific group of people or person, do they have the right access? What triggers this process? What decisions need to be made based on the information that we're collecting? What is the ultimate outcome that we're looking for? What is or can be automated? These are just some of the questions that were asked to create this. Now, a little bit of setting the stage. We do have a key for the chart that we're going to break down. So the orange, what is that? A square, but on its side, a diamond. So I guess it's a diamond. Those are decisions that have to be made. You can think of them as whether they're decisions by you, decisions by someone else going through this process. The blue square is actions or task. The purple is triggers. So this triggers something to happen. And then automations are in pink, and the end of the process is in a different shape and is green. Now looking at the overall of the process, we're going from a contact's information is received. The very first question or decision that we have is, do you have access to the CRM system, the CRM database? If the answer is no, you go down. If the answer is yes, you go right. So we're going to break down if we go no and go down the chart. So for this one, you send your contact information to marketing@abc.com. Now, this is based off of an example that we walked through with one of our clients. The reason that they decided to go through this was because they didn't want to give everybody access to the CRM. They had 1,000-person company, and they don't want every user to have a login. That gets quite expensive. So for them, they decided that the marketing team and some admins were going to be responsible for this. Now, you could change that to be CRM at your domain. Really, it's about whoever is behind that email getting that information needs to then know what to do with that information. It also helps that it's a team of people, even if it's a team of two. But that way, if one person is out, the data is not sitting there getting trapped. It's a group effort to know who and what is being received when. Regardless, this could also be you enter it yourself, or if you don't have access, you fill out this form on our intranet or on Teams. Whatever that looks like, that is the step. So if you don't have access, this is where you need to put the information. Once the marketing team member logs it into the CRM, or they have to log into the CRM, in order to create a new contact. That then puts us back up to someone is interacting with this information that has access to the CRM. Of course, you have to log in using your credentials. So now we're looking at the yes track. We have access, we're ready to we've logged in, we're ready to enter the information. Now we have another decision or sticking point. Does this contact exist? Yes or no? We're going to go through the yes. So if the contact already exists, now it's just a matter of updating it, setting the appropriate personnel as the contact owner, and confirm that the data is accurate. Now for this firm, and what we suggest is best practice, making sure that every contact has an owner in your firm. The reason for this is that we all know that relationships are contacts and the success of your clients' relationships is based on one-to-one relationships. So making sure that every contact is owned by someone. So for instance, if I decided to leave CKC, all of my contacts are tagged and then can be broken up amongst the team and say, okay, this client is going to be owned by this person. This relationship is going to move on to this person. If a project manager in your firm decides to leave, retire, what have you, you can then hold those contacts and wait for a replacement, but those contacts can be notified and you can communicate to them, hey, we understand that this person is leaving, but we value your relationship. We don't want you to go to a different firm. We want you to stay with us. Your new point of contact will be so-and-so and so-and-so, or we'll reach out to you once they're hired, whatever the process may be. But you can communicate that. They don't just walk out the door with said project manager when they leave. So making sure that every contact has an owner is important. So that's the pretty streamlined process once you go through this. Now, when we say set contact information, confirm data accuracy, you absolutely can get more detailed there and say what is required, what information you're looking for. For this purpose, we're relying on the system to do that. We've set certain fields required. We've had the tooltips turned on to make sure that every field is clear why we're asking for it. So the system itself is taking care of those, but you can list it here too if you want to get that detailed on your process map. Now going with the no, this existing company does not exist. So we're going from now we need to have an interim step and we need to create that company record. Creating that company record, again, you have to fill out the required fields that might be necessary. Again, this is going to be different information than what's on the contact record. Company record is going to look a little bit different. And then once that company record is in place, then you go to creating that new contact, fill out the required fields, and then a workflow is triggered. An email is sent to the contact owner, because remember, going back to the beginning, the owner or whoever gave you that contact information might not be in the system, but they will get an email letting them know that their contact is now in the system. So making sure that all of that makes sense for what you're doing with your business. So going back to the overview of the process, you can do this for an opportunity. When a pursuit or a rumor comes in, what happens? What are the decision points? What are those veers of yes and no? What happens if the answer is no? Does it terminate? Does it then go on to another process or continue on with the existing process? This is a great thing to have documented, especially for onboarding of new hires, whether that's new hires of your marketing department that would be a part of the team who is doing the entering, or great for people who have those contacts and those relationships that now know, oh, okay, when I get new contact information, I need to email marketing@abc.com. But having it a part of your onboarding also sets a precedent that your company prioritizes client relationship management, that they know that managing your contacts and those relationships is vital to your business. Just by having this visually here and a part of the process, and it makes it clear to everyone else. You can then invite IT or accounting or operations to look at this and say, do you have any contacts that you're managing that fall outside of this? IT might go, well, where does Outlook fit into this? How does the person's email get into our Outlook system? Then you can improve, absolutely, the process, include that into the documentation. But every step of the way, you're building upon this. And then maybe it's to the point where you say that workflow is not enough, a trigger at the end. Maybe we want people to be following up if they're marked to a tier 1 or, high level contact, whatever that is, that you have some triggers that work every quarter that remind the contact owner, hey, it's a new quarter. It's time to reach out to this contact, to stay in front of them, to update them on what we're doing as a business, what we see in the industry, what have you. So this is just bare bones. You absolutely can fill this out more. You can go into more depth with what your different shapes and things mean, different colors. For this, the project manager used Lucid Chart. You can absolutely use Miro or any of the other tools out there. I do a lot of presentations, so my brain works in PowerPoint. So I've done some of mine in PowerPoint. You can use anything, but the most important part is, again, remembering the power of getting it down on paper, getting it down where everybody can visually see something and then edit something. So with that, I finished a lot earlier than I thought. So I can open it up for some questions for anything around process mapping, this process, how the client moved through. I will say that when you're thinking about going through this process internally, the less cooks in the kitchen at the beginning, the better. Sometimes we had up to 5 people involved in this, and it really drug things out because they would get stuck in certain areas or certain nuances. And it took a while to get it completed down to the end product. It's a lot easier to have a few people at the beginning to just get it all down and then bring in the different players to add to it instead of bogging it out and really slowing down the process and not being able to finish. Now, this is just one. We went through many others. We went through we documented their opportunity management, their project management, the proposal management of how to make sure that everything is where it needs to be in a timely manner, who's responsible for it. And as it walks through, what triggers need to be happening, or identifying, hey, this is where a lot of things are dropping. Let's build out that in a little bit more detail. So going through this is a great process or a great exercise. Again, keep it small at the beginning and then add people once you have that. Looks like we do have a question. Oh, very good. What information was included in the email at the end of the workflow? So because we're looking at this, what was important is that not everybody had access to the CRM. So they wanted an email to go to the contact owner, typically not marketing, to let them know, here's your contact information. This contact, this contact has been entered into the CRM system with this information in case there's a typo or they somehow misfilled out the information. And then the expectation. We expect you to be in touch with them once a quarter, every other month, whatever it needs to be based on who that contact is and how they were tagged on their contact type, company type, what have you. And then instructions on if this contact information changes or any activity with this contact, email marketing@abc.com. So just furthering that process and reiterating that it had been done and then what needs to happen if there's any changes in the future. Great question, Katie. Thank you. Any other questions that we have? Hopefully I didn't talk too fast. I felt like I calmed my heart rate down from the beginning, but I went a little bit faster than expected. Well, some of you might be typing, but I did want to give you a heads up on some of our upcoming events. We have our CRM chat next month on May 11th. You can sign up for that. I believe I included the link earlier. If not, I will drop that. Oh, yeah, it is on the monthly CRM resources. The link is up there. And then if you are in the Denver area, I will be doing a Uninet specific workshop on April 26th. We are doing a DFW users group on May 3rd. And then if you are in the Philadelphia area, Julie Schaefer and I will be doing a CRM data and InDesign workshop on May 3rd. And it doesn't look like we have any more questions, so I'll give you back 4 minutes of your day and wish you a wonderful rest of your Thursday and have a good ending of your week. Have a good one.